Hey vinyl people, welcome back to Wax and Relax. I'm John, and you finally get to meet him. This is my son John.
How's it going?
All right, we're doing something today called 5 from 85. This was something started by MGK Boston, and we had seen it on the Mega Jeff channel. So for both of those gentlemen, I'm sure there's a couple more thread responses to that, but we wanted to kind of throw our hat into the ring. Like those two gentlemen, it was right around high school for me. I was I graduated 87, so that would have been kind of my sophomore, beginning of my junior year. So we picked out our 5 records. He listens to a lot of 80s stuff, so he'll throw in his 2 cents on a couple things. But it's going to start out with Tears for Fears, song from the Big Chair, big record from 1985. They had a lot of records that had hit singles on it back then. The Hurting was the one before this, and then Sowing the Seeds of Love in '89. But this was the one that really kind of brought them into the mainstream. Funny thing about this record, I think, is, and don't take this the wrong way, this is kind of the Pink Floyd of the 80s, and let me explain why. For instance, it sounds nothing like anything Pink Floyd did, but same sort of theories and ideas that Pink Floyd ran with. For instance, Everybody Wants to Rule the World is in 12/8 time, and it just, for better or worse, has 2 chords that rub back and forth. Pink Floyd was like that with, like, stuff on Wish You Were Here and Animals. They would just take those simple ideas a little off time and then stretch them out real long. Interesting, lyrical concepts and interesting instrumentation. So yes, it's nothing like Dark Side of the Moon or anything like that. But I don't know. I hope you get what the hell I'm trying to say on that. But great record. I listened to it quite a bit. This one, Loudness, Thunder in the East. Interesting story about this record. When we first started collecting and playing again, we had gotten our first USB turntable, and I don't know, it was probably about 5 years ago or so, and we were playing this record, and about halfway through the record, it just stopped, and the motor was done, and it was, a cheap enough unit that it was not worth repairing. It was just better to upgrade and replace. So that's what we did, and we have a much better table now. But we always joke around in the fact that, I had said, if I weren't here with him when that happened, I would have blamed him for ruining our turntable.
Let's remember the joke.
So this copy here, it has some writing on it. We're not sure if it's an autograph or not. And if you look on the other side, it's got sort of similar markings. I actually met 2 of the guys on this tour. They're from Japan, and they were on the tour for this with Stryper and TNT, and hung out with them in the hotel lobby for a little bit until they went off with much better looking women than we had. But kind of cool thing about this, I'm going to give a little bit of local spin on this, is this was recorded in late 1984, early 85 at Bearsville Studios, which is owned by Todd Rundgren up in Woodstock, New York, produced by Max Norman. As soon as they finished this record, they moved out. Savatage moved in. Same producer, same studio. I mean, it's just one right after the other. So this is not part of the 5, but this is some local guys that are important to us. And again, this one's actually is autographed, and it was actually autographed in this very room. Long story, we'll get into it a little bit on one of the other records, but we used to run a radio show out of this studio here. All right, so the next one for our 5 from 85. What's that?
Steel Pulse.
Babylon the Bandit. This is undoubtedly, I don't know about you, but undoubtedly my favorite reggae band.
It's in my top 10.
Yeah, oddly enough, this is a white label promo. The record's in kind of beat shape.
But the record's not.
Well, it's, I mean, the recording, absolutely. It's, yeah, it has seen better days, but for my money, it's just more comfortable to own it than to not own it. So I'm kind of the completist in me. Most of the time that we listen to Steel Pulse, it's not on vinyl. It's usually off of a stream playlist when we're having, family party or something like that, or it's out when we're DJing. He's actually my DJ partner as well. Next one. Actually, the next two are kind of tied together. 85 was the crossroads for metal, and I grew up a metalhead, and I raised a metalhead. And up until about 1985, anything that was hard, that was heavy, that had, guitars and drums and long hair, and well, they didn't even have to have long hair, but, anything that kind of fit in there, it was all good. It was all, cut from the same cloth. And 85 was kind of the splitting point. This is where you made up your mind. Were you a hair metal fan or were you a thrash fan? Because up until that point, you just had, heavy metal of some, varying degree of whether it was speed metal or, whatever. But that whole glam hair thing went one way, and the whole thrash thing went the other way. And there was not a lot of middle ground. There was very few bands left standing in the middle of the road for that last half of the 80s. So up until then, 1985, this was one of my favorites, Rough Cut. This is a band that was discovered and managed by Wendy Dio. And on this tour, they toured. This was they went out with Dio on the Sacred Heart tour. Saw them in Lakeland, and fantastic. They're just as good live as they were on the record. It's one of those bands where the first record is awesome, second record's okay, and then after that, it just all kind of goes pear-shaped.
That's how you are with Motley Crue.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, 85 was a big disappointing year for me for Motley Crue, because all the promise of the first record, they got heavier and looking like they were going to be a metal band on the second record, and then they come out all dressed in pink and with a piano ballad and,
And then Dr. Fugan and Ghost of Girls come out.
Yep, and that's they went totally to the hair side. And 85 was a big disappointment for me for Motley Crue. But you might remember this guy, Paul Shortino, singer. He was in the movie Spinal Tap. He was Duke Fame, and he was the one that was going to play in the Enormo Dome, and that the Spinal Tap was kind of mocking him. Funny story about that is when we were doing the radio show, he was still a little kid at the time. We were doing it here in this room, and the way I had my telephone interview set up is I actually had a mic going into a speakerphone. And back then, you could do star 70 to block call waiting from coming in so that it wouldn't interrupt your phone call. And at the time, I was also running my DJ business. At the time, I was doing a lot of weddings and stuff like that. So I would forward my business line over to my cell phone by using the star 72 or star 72 feature. And well, we go to interview Paul Shortino on the phone, and I dial the star 72 and we call him, and we do the interview, and everything's great, no problem. We recorded it and edited it, played it on the air at our next showing, and a couple of weeks later, it was he had a birthday at some point, right there. And we're like, wow, it's been kind of quiet lately. And my mom and my sisters were like, how come no one answered the phone when we were calling, for John? Some guy kept answering and saying, God damn it, there's no John here. I'd hit the wrong number, and for 2 weeks I forwarded every phone call to my business and to my house to Paul Shortino. So, Paul, I apologize about that after all these years, if you remember that at all. But yeah, so all of his birthday phone calls went to Paul Shortino, which Paul also was the guy that played that replaced Kevin Dubrow in Quiet Riot, and when we spoke to him, he was actually just singing with Carmine Appice in King Cobra, so he's kind of hitting all those bands. So this is where I said where it splits into the hair, from the hair stuff into the thrash stuff. And '85 is when you had things like you had like Overkill, Feel the Fire, and you had Hell Awaits.
By Slayer.
Hell yeah. This is pretty cool. This is actually his. This is a reissue on bloody red vinyl of some sort. Weighs a ton. Beautiful. It's on Metal Blade. Yeah, this was a different thing. This was cleaner than Show No Mercy, and it was way cleaner than The Haunting the Chapel. And at the time, they were just getting some exposure because some of their songs were used, some from the first record, were used in a movie, River's Edge. So, you know, they were just getting ready to get signed by Rick Rubin, and then obviously the next year they did Rain and Blood. But this was a pivotal record, you know, their last one for Metal Blade, and it was fast as hell, man. I mean, just the title track alone, that was something else. But yeah, that was for me. I went to the dark side. I went to the thrash side, and you know, as you can see, he's wearing a Nasty Savage T-shirt, and
then again, to this day, I still hear best of both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's kind of backtracking and discovering some of the hair stuff on his own. I caught him the other day listening to LA Guns, and so.
Which still one of my favorite bands.
So anyway, but yeah, that's it. That's for us. Our 5 from '85. Do all the stuff, the clicks and whatnot, the likes and subscribes, and tell your neighbor and send your carrier pigeon off into the world. Let them know about Wax and Relax, the Vinyl Listening Room. I'm John.
And I am John also.
And we'll see you on the B-side.